Often when I'm running, of course, as a Republican, even though there's 5 candidates in this race, 3 Republicans and 2 Democrats. I guess they didn't give the invitation. But one of the things as Republicans, you hear, one of the things that frustrates me is the constant rhetoric that you hear. I'm for cutting taxes. I'm for cutting, limited government. But in the last 14 years, here are the facts. Our annual state budget has gone from, in the year 2000, from $98 billion to $198 billion in the last session. That's a 100% increase. And when you bring that up to Republicans, they say, well, yeah, but the population's increased. Well, the population has gone from 20 billion to 26 million. So it's about a 26% increase. But yet the budget has increased by 100%. The per capita budget has gone from $4,500 to where the last session was $7,500. We as Republicans are not cutting the size of government. When I began this campaign 6 months ago, I made a commitment that I was going to go out, and the reason I started 6 months ago is because knowing of Mr. Hager prevailed, that there will probably be a fairly fast election. This is 21 counties. There's a lot of issues. They change from county to county. And so I made a commitment to try to talk to every county judge, every county elected official that I could, from mayors and county judges and commissions and so forth. And one of the things I'd always ask them is, hey, is government bigger or smaller? And we have more or less regulation. And every one of them virtually say, government is bigger and there's more and more regulations. Our debt in the state of Texas, 14 years ago, we had virtually zero debt in our transportation. Today, we have $23 billion in transportation debt. We are one of the highest debted states in the country for transportation. Our total debt has gone from $19 billion to $45 billion. The debt per capita person has gone from $800 in the last 10 years, $800 per person to $1,600 per person for debt. We're becoming like the federal government. We have got to stop this madness and this path that we're on. I really am about limiting the size of government, not only from the tax perspective, but limiting the power of the federal government. So, I really would appreciate your support and consideration in this upcoming election. Thank you.
And Mr. Gregory,
there are so many issues. I can't possibly hit them in 3 minutes and talk about them, but I want to just synopsize them real quickly for you. Water, I already talked about. We need to reform our tax structure. Having sat on city council and understanding what goes on there, and having sat on watch some of the county judges try to figure out how they're going to juggle property taxes and then faced with other regulations from the feds like FEMA, where they try to figure out how much below the floodplain we are, and then 26% of our property that we find, our property taxes and our school taxes are going to be rendered zero because the feds have decided that your property is below the floodplain. There are a lot of things that are going on that need to be taken into account. Our franchise tax is a double tax on business. It's one of those things that keeps the mom and pops from not only being able to grow, but it's going to perpetually keep it mom and pops. There's nothing fair about a tax that the state of Texas imposes on the gross income of a business. They can't do R&D. They can't buy inventory. They pay inventory tax. They pay business personal property tax on the inventory. Things like that have to change. I don't want to pick winners and losers in the next session of the legislature. Every time the legislature is in session, they pick winners and they pick losers. How about just getting rid of what it is that doesn't work? I don't want $1 million threshold on a mom and pop business so that the franchise tax doesn't apply. I want to get rid of that tax. It taxes shareholders and the citizens pay for it. We're not even in our business allowed to show that we're charging a tax or passing through a tax because the state legislature had made that verboten. You can't put on your invoice that, oh, this franchise tax fee is part of what it is that you're paying. You have to hide that. Why? Because the legislature doesn't want you to know they picked winners and losers in the next session of the legislature. It's absolutely abhorrent. Another thing, When you're 65, you've paid enough taxes to educate 3 or 4 generations since your children were in school. Why is it that we continue to pay tax on school children that we no longer have? Oh yeah, let me forget. They have a 65 freeze. So you're 65, you're not going to have to worry about paying the taxes that are going to continue to increase in the next year because it's 65. Well, why don't they just say at 65 you don't pay any more school tax? Wouldn't that be a lot better? The winners and losers has got to stop. I shuddered before I got into this race. Every 2 years, I would read the legislative updates that would come in the Bar Journal, and it freaked me out. I said, oh my God. Well, can you imagine if you're not in business? It really doesn't matter that much to you, but every time you go to Randall's, and that truck that's set there, $9.8 billion in the trucking industry is what you're going to have to pay for because they're sitting in an infrastructure that doesn't work. I'm out of time. That's what I need
I think it's really important that you know the heart of your leaders. I think that if you take the time to get to know Lois Coforce, you're going to find that that's the type of leader that you want representing you. And I think the proof is in the pudding. When you've been in the legislature for 14 years, she won't be inexperienced. She will come in as someone who can immediately make an impact with the leadership in the Senate. The other part is that if you haven't done a good job, then you're not going to get reelected. She just had a fundraiser in Burnham last night where over 800 people showed up. We had over 1,200 people write personal checks to Lois for her campaign. Now that doesn't happen if you're not doing a great job. So I encourage you to get to know Lois. You're going to have a seasoned veteran legislature that's going to go to work for you. Thank you.
All right, well, now we're going to get to the Q&A portion of the evening. Overall, we're going to have 30 minutes left. What Judy's going to do is, whoever raises their hand and has a question, she'll select you out of the audience. And that was quick. Because we are pressed for time, we need to keep the questions
I'll keep very short.
brief and the answers.
All of the election material I received indicates that all three of you guys claim to be pro-Second Amendment. So, if that was a single issue one was going to make a decision on, I realize it isn't, why should somebody vote for you with your Second Amendment stance versus one of your opponents?
Is that just
All three, yeah.
Okay. Okay, let's go back to the original slide. Mr. Colbert, go ahead.
Can you repeat the question?
I think it's so the candidates would defend their personal Second Amendment stance and why theirs would be preferable compared to their opponents.
We're experienced gun owners. We've had guns all of our lives with hunters. And we also have the NRA endorsement and the Texas State Rifle Association endorsement. So that would be a good reason.
Mr. Gates, you guys have a question?
As a lifetime member of NRA and someone that has a CHL license, and my wife has a CHL license, and 3 of my girls have a CHL license. So I think we're definitely about as pro-Second Amendment as what you possibly can be. You know, in the argument that the Second Amendment is about, gun ownership or about hunting, that's not what the Second Amendment was about. You know, the Second Amendment was about arming us as citizens against a tyrannical government, and to arm the citizens to rise up in the event that a tyrannical government came in to take away all of our rights. That's what the Second Amendment is really about. And I'm a big believer that, I've had the chance to visit some other countries, and the countries that take away our gun rights, take out Hitler. Well, one of the first things he wanted to do is take away, the guns and ownership. In any country where they've taken away and restrict the gun rights, you have more of a dictatorial type of a country. That's why it's very important that in our country that we maintain the right. and have absolutely no infringement on our Second Amendment rights. And I stand for that, and will continue to fight for that as much as I have with any other constitutional rights.
I'm a constitutional conservative. The Second Amendment says the rights of the citizen to bear arms shall not be infringed. That means from the ammunition that they buy, that means from the size of the clips that the ammunition goes in, that means from the CHL license on down, that means I'm prepared to have open carry in the state of Texas. I'm prepared to expand where it is that handguns that have been proved to be in the hands of law-abiding citizens, as verified by the background checks in the CHL, can go anywhere they go, without reservation. A long time ago, it was decided that we need to take baby steps in the CHL because, after all, we don't want to create the wild, wild west. You all remember that? Yeah. How many of those people today can say that a CHL handgun owner has ever been involved in a crime or an unlawful use of their weapon? Zero. Zero. So why then, without that kind of history and having that kind of history, should we not at this next session say, we're going to expand and let Texas lead the way so that we can get the rest of the states to see that what we had done means literally what the Second Amendment is all about. The federal government last time tried to say, you can't buy this ammunition. You can't have this kind of a weapon. You can't have automatic weapons. That's an infringement and it's an abridgment of our Second Amendment rights. When the camel's nose gets under the tent, as I've said before, then you have to start fighting even harder. My position is, expand it while we've got the Republicans in the state houses that are conservative and want to make certain that our constitutional rights aren't going to get trampled by the delegation of additional bureaucratic authority. And that's going to come from the DEA, the ATF, and they're criminalizing our rights to the Second Amendment. And I'm absolutely flatly opposed to that.
Thanks, Judy. This question is for all three of the candidates, and thank you so much for being here today. Have you or anyone working for your businesses ever participated in the RFP, RFQ bid process for a contract with the state or any county, school, municipal, special district, or other public entity? And if your answer is yes, was your business awarded the bid?
We do not have at Roy any business contracts with any state agency. We do not have any business contracts with any quasi-state agencies. The relationships that we have with rural disposal go to municipal utility districts that have citizen board members and city councils that also are the people who issue and provide the contract relationship with rural disposal.
Those letters, RFP, or what are those? What kind of are those contracts with who?
Request for proposal or request for questionnaire.
Are those to government agencies or something?
Would be a form.
RFQ is a request for quotation.
Quotation, yeah. Yeah. A bid.
A bid, request for quotation.
No, I mean, mine are tenants, you know, they pay rent. Life goes on, it's good. But I can tell you that, I mean, out of 3,500 residents, you know, well, that would even be I think we have, maybe half a dozen that are subsidized by some kind of government program or something. 3,500 is probably less than 1%. I do whatever I can to stay away from government dealing with it. But I can tell you, as an elected official, I certainly wouldn't advocate. I would certainly want to divulge if I was ever involved in any kind of contract like that. But I don't have anything in my business that do.
Thank you.
And Mr. Cole.
Well, we're in the petroleum business. We sell gasoline and diesel. Our company does anyway. So, if you're in that business, we do business with county governments and things like that, and they always bid out. We get them sometimes, and sometimes we don't get them. Texas A&M University, we're close to Texas A&M, and we sell them some lubricants, and that's always on an RFP process as well. And we compete against several folks to do that. So, yeah, we're familiar with that process.
This is a question for all three of the candidates. With the last election, obviously, it was a big win for the GOP, yet we see the federal government continue to go to the left and more on